Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Virtual Reality Show! My name's PHIA, and I'm your host. Today we have a special guest here who's Xander! So Xander's here.
How's it going, everybody?
How's it going, Xander? He's here. He actually works in VR, or used to work in VR, and has a FlickerVR, like Porter Robinson fan project that you've worked on. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do.
Okay. So my name's Xander. I'm from San Francisco, California originally. I've been working in games for the past 4 or 5 years now. I've wanted to be a video game designer since I was about 10 or 11 years old. And I went to school at the University of Southern California, School of Cinematic Arts game program. And from there, that was my first ever taste of actually developing for VR. One of the things I'm most proud of in my time there is for my junior year thesis project, we were one of the only VR projects for students there, and this was back in the Oculus DK2 days.
Oh wow!
And we actually, and we actually were one of the first to use motion controllers as a form of controlling VR. And we did that way before the Vive or the Oculus Touch or anything was a thing back then. So me and VR, we've kind of been, I've been in VR for, pretty much my entire professional life up until very recently. And yeah, that's kind of who I am.
So you've been working in VR for quite some time then, but the biggest thing that you've shared with everybody online and that I've been seeing online is actually your FlickerVR project. So I'd love for you to go ahead and kind of talk about that a little bit. I actually, Xander went ahead and sent me the most recent build of FlickerVR, which was super duper cool. I got to try that out. So I kind of want to hear about when did you start this? Why did you make it? All that fun stuff,
So I started working on it in, I think it was November of 2018. Basically what it is Porter had Second Sky, and he had an art competition, a fan art competition. That he was accepting submissions for. And I started working on this project way before I even knew that the festival was a thing. I started working on it just as something to, work on for myself. I never worked on, I've been working in games for quite some time, but I never actually made anything just by myself. I always, worked with groups of people. So I started this as just a way to, pass the time and to get better at, my craft. And it just so happened that the timing worked out where I got to, actually submit it as part of the competition. I didn't get in because it turned out that they were just looking for visuals and videos and paintings to post on the LED screen, which is, it's fine. I get it. It's, if it would have been a whole thing to set up a bunch of VR headsets and stuff, but even though I made it and I didn't get in, I still wanted to show it to people at the festival. So I ported it to the Oculus Quest and actually snuck the headset in through security and demoed to over 30 people at the festival, which was
so awesome. Because I remember that's how I found you actually, is you had posted about it online. I remember you posting about FlickerVR, and I saw it and I was like, wow, this is such a cool idea and concept. Unfortunately, I never ran into it at the festival, so I never got to try it out there, but all the people who did were extremely lucky.
I should probably explain what it is. Basically, in Porter's live show, Worlds Live, all his visuals evoke a sense of place. And the one that I identify with the most, the one that I kind of have the clearest vision of, was the visuals for Flicker and also the live edit for the song. So it's basically just a bunch of floating cubes in an anime landscape. And I figured that when I saw that, that would be pretty easy for someone with my limited skills to remake, because again, it's just a bunch of floating cubes and stuff.
Right.
So I tried to basically recreate that entire scene of the live show, but in full 3D using Unreal Engine, and kind of make a little VR music video out of it.
Well, you did such a good job, because the first moment when I was in there, I remember specifically standing on this giant green aqua colored cube, and you have this flag sitting over to the side that's Porter's logo with the cow emoji face, and when you press start for everything to start going, the cubes slowly pop into existence, and you start seeing them in all the different colors, and you hear the music playing, and then all of these flower blossoms start blowing in, and it felt just like as if you were inside the music, inside of the visuals for the song. Because I know I listen to the live edits all the time, and I love the the visuals for them. So it was so cool for me, as someone who really bonds with that, to then have you send over your version of Flickr where you could really like immerse yourself and be a part of it. And I think that's the coolest thing ever, is bringing worlds to life. So incredible job.
Well, thank you so much, PHIA. It makes me really, really happy to hear that. I mean, that's ultimately once I found out that this fan art competition was a thing, that was kind of my driving force, was wanting to share this with people that also understood exactly what it was that I was trying to create.
Right.
And I think that a big theme of Worlds as an album was fictional worlds existing for fleeting moments in time. And that was something that I tried to really capture with that, this was some little world that I created that I could show people for that one day, in that one moment of time, to kind of bring people into that world that doesn't exist, but is something that everybody there really knew very well,
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah. And it just so happened that that whole scene, even though it was, very visually striking and very evocative for me personally, and for a lot of other people, I'm sure, it was simple enough to where it was simple enough, and the visuals were clear enough, and that moment of the live show was clear enough to where I could focus on just trying to make it look as true to the original vision as possible. I didn't have to worry too much about putting my own kind of spin or interpretation on it. I did do a little bit of that, like with the flag. The flag doesn't exist in any of the visuals, but I wanted to put that there because I wanted to put that there, and also the software particles, to kind of make the player feel like there was wind rushing against them, kind of subtly give them more of that sense of place.
Absolutely. No, that's so cool to hear you say that, because that was one of the more striking things for me, is seeing the world itself have a life, to see the wind blowing and the flag blowing and stuff. And it does feel like you escape to that world. And, that's so cool for me, because that's one of the reasons that I love VR so much, is that I've always been a big, like, escapist. And I love thinking about all these faraway worlds that you can never visit. And that's one of the reasons I love Porter's music as well, is because Worlds takes you to those other places. It's creating this thing inside your mind that then you get to, experience in your own way. And it's so cool that you literally then took that and created an actual place that people can literally go to and experience. And that, I don't know, that's just such a cool, it's so cool how all the things are pulled together in that way. So I really appreciative of that.
Oh, again, I'm super duper stoked to hear that, because one of the things about making games or VR or just creating anything in general is, when you're making something, you're constantly iterating, you're constantly making little changes and playing the whole thing back all over again.
Right.
And when you do that, it's impossible. It's really hard to take a step back and see what it is that you're making, for what it is, because again, you've just seen it so many times, and you've seen it from its conception, when it is, just a bunch of gray. I was going to say a bunch of gray cubes, but that's pretty much what it is. It's just a bunch of cubes. But, when it's at its very early stages and you've seen it just slowly progress over time, it's really hard to see exactly what it is that you have in front of you, and to show it to people, and to have them, tell you how awesome it is, or how profound it is. Like that, I don't know. It's a pretty indescribable feeling. So thank you for that. And thank you to everybody who got to try it. That was definitely the best day of my entire life for a lot of reasons. So.
Same here. Lots of good things have happened because of that day. Moving on from FlickerVR, I want to talk a little bit more about, as far as development goes, what reasons do you have for wanting to do VR development, rather than just normal video game development? What about it appeals to you?
Well, I should probably clarify and say, I don't work on VR anymore. I actually work for Respawn on Apex Legends, which is, working for Respawn was, a really, really big dream and goal of mine.
Congratulations on that, because that's pretty incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to work for them ever since I was like 14 years old, when I played the Call of Duty 4 beta. So it's a pretty big deal. But the reason why this all kind of ties into VR and to the whole FlickerVR thing was because by doing that project, that actually gave me the experience I needed for developing for the Oculus Quest and like building on the Oculus Quest
Mm.
to work on my next project at the company I was working at before Grab. And then, having the experience and the know-how to do that helped build my portfolio, which then led to me getting a job at Respawn. One of the other things I really wanted to talk about was just like, why people make video games. People who make video games, they don't do it for money per se, because there's always going to be more money to be earned or made, and more, I don't know, like more security, working at like Facebook or Google or something like that.
Mhm.
People in games, we do it, and we do it because we love what we do, because we love
Right.
our craft, and we love working with other game developers. A lot of it comes down to having those unknown problems and trying to solve them, and that can mean staying up really late and trying to figure stuff out. And that's just one of the things that I really admire the most about everybody that I've really met in the games industry. Everybody's so willing to put in all that time and effort and manpower into what they love, just because they love doing it.
That's awesome. And that's,
So
that's exactly how it should be, is doing the things you love. And when you are doing something that you love, it's so much easier to make progress and make innovation and all of that cool stuff. So it's so, it's so inspiring to see all these people out there who are doing it, like you said, maybe not necessarily for the money, but just because it's what they love to do. And
absolutely.
so much great human invention comes out of that. So very, very cool to hear
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So,
And we're always at the game development, we're always at the very cutting edge of technology. Everything from graphics to physics to networking, we're always, especially at the AAA level and in VR, we're always looking to push the envelope. That's something that a lot of fans of video games expect from us. So getting to always work with the latest technologies, the latest concepts, even as far as like
new
development
toys.
practices, like how, like that, yeah, like all that stuff. That's something that is easily one of my favorite parts about working in games.
Right.
I would really like to talk about all the people that I met at Second Sky, and everybody that had the chance to
Second Sky
play
appreciation
FlickerVR.
moment.
I know, yeah, it's I worked on that thing for about 7 months. Again, even before the festival was even a thing. And if I'm going to be really honest, like the very beginning, at the beginning of 2019, I was really, really depressed. Like really, really, I didn't really know like what it was that I wanted to do. Like I was starting to wonder if like making games was really what I wanted out of life. Then when the festival got announced, and I saw this opportunity to make something and to show it to people and really see their reactions firsthand. I really pushed myself to try and do that, and I stayed up really late, and I had a lot of help from a lot of my close friends and coworkers. I really would not have been able to make it happen without their guidance and without their ideas. And then actually getting to the festival and showing people firsthand that understood exactly what it was that I was trying to make and what it was that I was trying to say. That was like one of the most creatively fulfilling things I've ever done in my entire life.
That's
sure.
so awesome. It's one of the best feelings, isn't it? When people understand what you're trying to do and they appreciate it for what it is, and they see what you're doing. Because I totally feel that way with all my VR stuff that I'm doing. It's the best feeling when people are like, hey, this is awesome. I love what you're doing. And it makes it all worth it, and it gives you a purpose, because I know what you mean when you're saying like beforehand, it's really hard when you're feeling really depressed and you're kind of like, what am I supposed to do? And then to have something that you can pour all this time and effort and energy in it, and it's just therapy. That's what it is. It makes you feel so much better when you know you're doing something that's affecting people and gonna put a smile on their face, and that you were able to do that. It's the coolest feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really weird balance to strike too. Like the trying to strike the balance between like making something for yourself, something that's really personal to you, but also making something that other people will enjoy. I do have one crazy story though.
All right, let's hear it.
So I was for New Year's this year, New Year's 2020. I was at this festival in San Bernardino called Countdown, and Porter was actually bringing in the new year. He was the one dropping the ball.
Oh,
And
right.
I was in the crowd waiting for him to come on, And this guy taps me on the shoulder and he's like, "Are you Xander?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, you showed me FlickerVR at Second Sky, and I liked it so much that I actually went out and bought a Quest just so that I can do it. And, I talked to you on Reddit. You sent me a build, and I do it every day. I show it to people." And his girlfriend was there, and she was like, "Yeah, he shows it to literally everybody."
That's
And
so
that was like one of the most
cool.
mind blowing things ever. Because as someone as someone who used to work in VR, and I did at the time, we always try to be evangelists for the medium.
Right.
We always try to get as many people into it as possible. And to hear that just from my stupid thing that I made, in my free time, to have that affect him in such a profound enough way where he went out and bought a headset just to do that, like, that was crazy to me. I couldn't really believe what he was saying.
That's so exciting. That story makes me really happy. It's so cool that somebody, was affected by you and like wanted to go out and get it. And that's definitely a big thing for me too, is I love getting people into VR and inspiring them with that. And so love that story. So thank you for sharing that. So for anybody who is interested in FlickerVR watching this video, how should they go about trying it out for themselves?
See, I'm really torn on that, because on the one hand, I would really like to share it with people, but on the other hand, that is definitely not. I definitely do not have the rights to Porter's music or anything like that. So, Porter, if you're out there, I would love to share it with people, especially during this kind of tough time where people are cooped up in their houses, and it would really mean a lot to be able to bring people into your world and to have that people have that sense of escape for just like a few minutes out of their lives. So, if you're out there, I would really like to send it to you and to other people. So if that's okay, I would be more than willing to make that happen. But for the moment, you can follow me on Twitter, and I'll post the trailers and stuff like that on there.
Perfect. So anybody interested in Xander's work, then definitely check out his Twitter. I'll be linking that in the description. Check out all the stuff there. Hopefully your plea is heard and we can try and get FlickerVR out there for everyone.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what the future of VR is going to be like? I don't know. I'm curious to hear where do you think VR is going to go? Like, what do you think the next big step is?
The next big step. Well, in the near future, I think the biggest thing we're looking at right now is that we're seeing VR make this really interesting shift from being a fun technology to being a household technology. We saw, all the headsets have sold out over the holiday this past year, so tons and tons of people are getting VR. And so I do think the next thing is that it's going to become more mainstream. We're going to get more games like Half-Life Alyx coming in, those AAA type titles.
Also coming soon is Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, developed by Respawn. So that's coming out soon. So keep your eyes out on
everybody.
that. Yep. I didn't work on it, but it's coming out soon. So get stoked for it.
Also, the whole Facebook Horizons, I know that that's in its beta right now. That, I think, is kind of the first step at us getting this almost MMO, because we have VR chat right now, but it's not integrated into social media. And I think that's going to be a real shifting point for the future, is when we suddenly see virtual reality become the way we interact over social media. We're going to see some really interesting connections there. So that's my prediction.
I definitely agree with you in that it's like what we were talking about earlier, where all video game technologies kind of disseminate into all other aspects of life, right? And I can definitely see that happening with VR, even if it isn't already happening now. I think the most important thing that's happened recently is the Quest. The fact that it's this all-in-one headset that you can buy for $400. It has everything you need, and most importantly, you can do it anywhere. Desktop VR will always be for the foreseeable future be better than mobile VR. But the fact that you can have the same exact experience anywhere, and maybe you don't have enough room in your bedroom where your computer is to be able to do that, but you can do it in your living room. That's really huge. And being able to kind of do what I did too, and bring it into a festival and show random people and kind of bring people in there, that's also really huge too.
Definitely.
In the future, though, like whenever I want to have a better idea of where VR is going to go, I always watch Michael Abrash's talks at Oculus Connect. He's the chief scientist at Facebook Reality Labs, and he was actually one of the original guys that worked at id Software with John Carmack. And he always does a talk every year at Oculus Connect about what his predictions for the future of VR will be.
Mhm.
And as most recent one, he was talking about how foveated rendering is going to really change the game once we have good eye tracking. So
I'm so excited
what that
about
is
foveated rendering.
exactly, yeah. So being able to track where you're looking in the headset and only render that exact part where you're looking in really high fidelity and kind of have everything be lower fidelity. That means that that basically will enable all these desktop class experiences to be experienced on something as small and light as the Oculus Quest and portable.
That's
So I think that's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I really see changing the game is recently Facebook and Oculus acquired a company called Control Labs. They make non-invasive brain-computer interfaces. So there's this crazy video out there of this guy wearing this wristband, and he's able to basically move objects in a game in like Unity or something like that with really, really accurate precision, accurate tracking without even moving, just by thinking. So that's kind of where I think VR is going to go in the near future. And it's also going to get cheaper and even more practical than the Quest. And, hopefully that'll be where, VR will go in the future.
Absolutely. I hope it expands, and I hope we get to see all of these crazy technologies come soon. So let's hope for the best with that. I think we have pretty good shots so far, just with the way things are looking. But was there anything else you wanted to share today?
Just thank you to everybody who I showed FlickerVR to at Second Sky. Thank you to, obviously Porter for being, such an inspiration, and for, being my biggest inspiration. If I wasn't so inspired to do this and to make this, I wouldn't be where I am in life right now. So that's pretty crazy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Xander. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure having you on the virtual reality show. I really loved our discussion and our talk today. For everybody watching.
Thank you,
Oh, you're so welcome. For everybody watching, if you want to check out Xander's work, like I said, go ahead and check in the description link. And if you want to talk more about VR or just FlickerVR or any other topics, then go ahead and join my Discord. I have a link to that in the description. We're always talking about fun stuff related. As far as that goes, go ahead and subscribe to the Virtual Reality Show channel. We're going to be having many, many, many more videos just like this. There's also a whole bunch of other videos I have where we talk about some of the things that me and Xander covered today. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. I've been your host, PHIA, and I will see you on next episode. Bye!